Well, I think the biggest thing right now people have to understand is the first-time buyers usually live more high maintenance. And what I mean by that is their biggest purchase of their life, one of the top three things. So our job as realtors is to educate and have them understand the process and expectations.
I definitely. And when I work with a first-time home buyer, the first thing I do is I make sure that they get pre-approved. So then they are, set knowing what their price point is at, and then that way we can start the process.
Right. And, I think we have to understand what, when they buy, what they understand of their expectations. Because a lot of times, they have their budget. And of course, a lot of times, how many times we've gone through it where what they want is not always in their budget.
For sure. Yeah. And then also narrowing down a location too, because I find for a first-time home buyer, if they're kind of, looking at a broad spectrum of homes, it's hard to narrow down what it is that they like, and then they get overwhelmed. So I think the education part is really crucial.
And I think the big thing is just from a point of understanding of your costs. So we do the mortgage cost, there's a closing cost, there's moving costs, there's utility costs, even insurance. So I think people have to budget for what they do, and a lot of times they don't do. They just get excited and they don't realize what they're getting into.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that when we educate the buyer on what's expected, I think there's the down payments, also your closing costs from a lawyer's perspective, your insurance, your utilities. I think those are the things that we look at to make sure that you understand it. I think on average we say, $35,000 to $5,000 roughly for closing costs. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. And then if they're buying a condo, then they have to make sure they have the money to pay for a condo reader, because you don't want to have your clients read the condo documents themselves, or even, have a friend or. Yeah, there's a lot of opinions out there about condos. So having that money set aside to have a condo reader, and then also, like you said, home inspection, and if unexpected things come up, like if they're buying a home that's older, you might want to get a sewer scope, right? That's an additional cost into a home inspection.
And I think the biggest thing is that our job is to educate someone on a newer home or an older home. An older home, you're not buying a brand new home. So we have to also prepare and educate our clients to make sure that, we're not there to nickel and dime. We're there to catch any surprises outside of the normal. There's always going to be some costs involved with buying a home that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to make sure for us to throw in there too is also there are programs that, like you talk about, that the programs you can go to the bank, like you can pull out your RSP. Like I think those are two things that we need to do. So do the GST first, and then we'll do the new home, like the buyer's program. Well, the big thing that people do is the governments are trying to incentivize people to buy. However, there is a program out there for GST back for new homes. So that's something that we have to understand. So it does not affect resale, it does new homes. So there is a program that there's a threshold of up to $1 million, and then there's a threshold above $1 million. And in Calgary, we're finding more people going under $1 million. If they go to the new home areas, there's a rebate back, right, for 5% back, a GST rebate back to the builder. And basically they'll pay a certain dollar, there'll be a rebate back, net back to the builder. So that's something that people look at. And then there's a program right over $1 million. So there's on the $1 million program, it's an escalating formula they use. So the higher you go, it's less than you get. I think it starts around 5%, and then it ends up at less than 0.5% of what we understand.
Okay, so that's a GST rebate back to the builder if a buyer is buying with a builder.
Yeah, and it's a net dollar to the buyer. So there are out there to understand, and we've had Steve mention to us in the past that there are some builders that are kind of not misleading, but showing people that you can save, and then some of it already included, some of it may be added on. So it's really important, and that's us as realtors responsible to be able to walk in there and understand and ask the right question.
Right, and then also informing our clients what they're walking into. And then also for a first-time home buyer, the really cool thing is if you saved your, have savings in RSPs, the government's allowing you to use your RSPs and not be penalized withdrawing it when you're a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, and I think what we do is you work that with our mortgage brokers that we have. A lot of them are very well educated and understand the process. So what happens is that you're allowed to pull out a certain amount and then you pay it over time back. But the key is to get you into the game. So that's one of the things that we have, and it's a first-time buyer. Sometimes, just so you know, right, we talked about first-time buyers it's usually for, but there's also other programs, like if you went through a divorce or death or something like that, they have some opportunities where they will actually allow you to do it again.
Well, there's something that I learned. I didn't know that for first-time home buyer, it's not necessarily your first home, But if you go through a 5-year span of not owning a home, so for example, if you got a divorce and then 5 years later, or during that year, you're renting for 5 years, and then 5 years later you decide to buy, you purchase again, then you qualify as a first-time home buyer.
Same thing with bankruptcy. Same thing with there. I think the biggest thing for us is to always, we have those availability, but what we always do is we have great mortgage brokers that help us assist our clients so that it's the process of experience.
Yeah. You know, for first-time home buyer, it really depends on how much you have saved in order to purchase your first home. So if you saved, $20,000, that may get you into a condo, apartment, or a townhouse. But then if you're able to save, $50,000 plus, you may get into a home, like a detached home. So
yeah, I think there's some of the stuff that you can look at from your perspective is that condos or townhouse condos are a good way. The big problem everybody has is the condo fees. Buying a condo, apartment condos, you basically only have the cost of usually electricity, maybe your phone and cable. Buying a townhouse condo, you have also, your gas, water, sewer, plus your condo fee. So a lot of times that is, and the banks, what they do is they'll take a look at your debt ratio and use that all into the formula. We're finding a lot of people, we have a client right now, right, that they have their townhouse and they're looking at switching over, and they're looking at an attached home. So when you do an attached home, there's no condo fees. And what that does is that savings of maybe potentially the condo fee, you can actually increase your purchase power.
That's right. Because a lot of times mortgage or lenders will apply the condo fee along with what you qualify for in a mortgage.
Yeah, and I think what people are surprised at is a lot of times, again, we suggest to our mortgage brokers, let them get pre-approved, get them qualified, and then we know what the budget is, and also let them know about their expectations. Because a lot of times people start, in which you and I have been through that, where you don't want to go through that, where people start looking and they don't even know what they qualify for. We learn that we've got to set their expectations.
Yeah. I love working with first-time home buyers. It's always been such a pleasure seeing their excitement and knowing that you're the person to help them, purchase their very first home. And so I always take a lot of gratitude whenever I work with a first-time home buyer.
I think one of the things, I agree 100%. I think the biggest thing that we at Lend to You Long Associates with our team and Steve and you and I, is that we want the client to experience the process. And I think at the end of the day, your best reference is when you get another referral, or they're happy, or we get a Google review, or that type of stuff. So we want to make sure that they have the experience. And what we want is, we talk about relationships. And I think that's one of the things that we work hard to, is our building our relationships.
Click the link below to find your first-time home buyer's guide.
Or call or text us at 403-606-8822, the agents you trust and the city you love.